So I'm going to start with a quick exercise with you guys. I want you to think about what the first image, just take note of the first image that pops into your head when I give you a prompt. Okay? The prompt is apple. How many of you thought of the corporation? How many of you saw a red apple? How many of you saw a green apple? Yeah. How many of you saw a yellow apple? No? Okay. So the point of me asking you this is because when you communicate a message out, you cannot control what the person hears or thinks or sees in their mind's eye. So the more articulate, concise, and specific you are about your message and story and your elevator pitch and your copy when you're putting it on your websites, the better that picture will be for them and the more clear. So then if I say red apple, shiny red apple, you see exactly probably what I'm seeing in my head, right? So the more specific you are, the better you can control that narrative. So I'm going to tell you my story, my quick elevator, my social elevator pitch. It's my longest one. Today, at the end of the day, I'm hoping that you will walk out of here with a 90-second, a 60-second, and a 15-second social elevator pitch. So if you have 15 seconds with a journalist or a buyer or somebody, you know exactly those things you want to say. And if you have a longer time for an interview, to be very specific about that narrative and what you're communicating out. So my social elevator pitch is this. I was trained as a classical dancer all the way through high school. I went to North Carolina School of the Arts. It was a boarding arts high school in North Carolina on a college campus. I then went and danced with a small ballet company in Connecticut called Nutmeg Ballet. And that is where I fell in love with doing modern dance. Switched completely, went to NYU, met a choreographer in school while I was in school. He hired me right out of school. I performed in all of the major dance venues in New York City. I toured in Europe, and then the company folded. And I had a moment where I was like, do I want to start auditioning again? Do I really want to pound the pavement again? You know, I mean, it's, you know, is this really what I want to do? And my grandmother and grandfather had founded a dance school and professional children's dance company in Oslo, Norway. And she offered it to me and my husband. We were newlywed. We were 1 year into our marriage. And she said, come run the school. I'll teach you the business side. And he had an idea to teach entrepreneurship for theater artists. And he was like, this is perfect. And we had a building. So I ran the dance school. He founded the entrepreneurship school. It was accredited by the Norwegian government. We ran those simultaneously for 8 years. He is an SMU alum. So he had called them to see if he could create some kind of exchange program with his students and their students over the summer. And at that moment, they were hiring for a director of arts entrepreneurship in Meadow School of the Arts. And they convinced, we had a toddler at the time and just desperate to get back to family and familiarity. So we moved to Dallas. And then again, I was starting over. I now had run a business. I had been a professional artist and just could not imagine what was next. So I was teaching dance and doing choreography for Broadway Dallas, then Dallas Summer Musicals. And I was performing in Nutcrackers, and I was like, I felt like I was kind of going backwards, and I wanted to do more. So I went back to school at 38 and got my MA MBA at 2 degrees, 2 years. You're like fed with a fire hose. And out of that, I because I was very intentional about my education, meeting different community members. I had interned at Dallas Arts District Foundation while I was in school, and so she hired me 1 week before I graduated. So I started there. It was just 2 of us running a full foundation. I was technically operations and communications managing director, but again, it was only 2 of us, so if she wasn't doing it, I was, and if I wasn't doing it, she was, and we both ran this for 4 years. And then this opportunity came up. And so I am now the director of cultural tourism for Visit Dallas. If you had told my 18-year-old self that I would be working in the tourism industry and advocating for local artists, I wouldn't have believed you. And for me, it's I think, the bottom line is like, you just never know what path, just saying yes to the next thing is so incredibly important, because I feel so proud and empowered to support Dallas artists and the Dallas community. And I have a platform to do it. And I feel so incredibly lucky to be able to do that. So that's my story. Now, I would like you guys to tell me what you remember and what stuck of my story. Kat.
That you did dual MBA and were fed with a fire hose, and that you feel proud and empowered to support local artists.
That she started again at 38. She went back to school at 38 to reinvent herself, to learn something else, to do some, to learn something else, to do something else.
Yeah.
To change it, positive change.
Yeah.
I think that you were an established artist in your own field first, and then you started to learn the business of art, and then that continued to expand where you're bringing art to a larger audience.
Yeah. I love that, you guys. Okay. So the idea of this is we're about to do the A/B storytelling. And so for some of you, you did it last time we had this workshop. But I want you to know that whatever you've been practicing in the meantime is applicable now. So whatever you learned from the last time, that seed is planted, and now you get to see if people are hearing what you want them to hear. So for those of you who have not done this workshop, we're basically going to pair up. We can do a trio. I'm okay with you knowing your partner. And yes. And hi. Oh, you're just in time. Perfect. Yes. So we're going to pair up in twos. And I'll give you sort of the scope of this. One is A and one is B. A will tell B their life story. Think very clearly about what you want to communicate. B will tell A. Think very clearly about what you want to communicate and what will stick. Then you're going to stand up in front of the room and tell your partner's story in front of the classroom. And then we will ask the class what they remember, what they heard, and what stuck, and we'll confirm whether or not they have told the story correctly. Does that make sense? So the end goal of today is that social elevator pitch. These things that you're practicing now, these little nuggets that land, are going to be the things you're going to want to put into your social elevator pitch for later. And we'll get more into the detail of what that is later, but just that you're trying to remember and see what other people hear and remember of your story. Okay? So go ahead and pair up. Twos. Yeah. So, okay, so that's a really good question. So really, honestly, you guys, it's what's relevant to you and what you want to share. Now, I will say, and maybe I'll share this because it's part of the social elevator pitch part. When you're communicating a story, they don't know what they don't know. So you are communicating whatever you want somebody to hear and understand and know. So if it's relevant, like going back to my classical training and how that led me is valid to my story. But maybe it's not for you. Maybe starting in college or your early 20s, maybe that's where, just where on your timeline is what you need to determine for yourself. Yeah. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. So go ahead and pair up. Decide who's A and who's B. All right, so before you guys get started, hold on just 1 second. So I'm gonna give you each 5 minutes. You may not take notes. This has to be by memory. But when you are telling the other person's story, you will only have 1 minute. So you need to pull the relevant nuggets to share with the room. Does that make sense? We're gonna do 5 minutes of A telling their story, 5 minutes of B telling their story, and then we'll do the whole class all together, okay? Any more questions? Okay, go ahead, 5 minutes.